Good morning, everyone. And I'd like to say on behalf of Partners in Care, this event is running for National Safeguarding Adults Week 2023. And we're pleased to welcome today PC Rebecca Smith and DC Will Sneddon. And they're here to talk to us today about cyber fraud and protect. And there's a cyber criminal out there for everyone. So without further ado, over to you, Rebecca and Will. Thank you.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
As Karen's already said, my name's DC Will Sneddon. I'm currently one of the 3Ps officers and the cyber team for West Mercia. 3Ps is prepare, protect and prevent. I've got a background in CID and investigations, started in proactive CID back in 2015 and now I'm in the cybercrime team. So I've done child protection and online child exploitation as well. And my colleague, Rebecca, will tell you a wee bit about herself.
Good morning, my name's Rebecca Smith. So I've done 15 years on response before. Just over 2 years ago, I came over to the cybercrime unit. So like Will, I'm a 3P officer within the cybercrime unit. So like we said, there is a cyber criminal out there for everyone. Isn't that a scary thought? But what we have to do is, like any predator, a cyber criminal, you don't have to outrun them. You just have to run quicker than the person that's next to you. So cyber criminals are inherently lazy with how they'll do things. If they've got an easy target to go for, that's who they're going to go after. So we just need to get people just a little bit protected just so that they can help themselves. So the most common frauds are the ones that we're going to go through today, because people who are a little more vulnerable are so much more likely to become part of a fraud. So the word we use within the fraud and the cyber world is we use the word manipulate. We don't use the word tricked, and we don't tend to use the word conned either. It's manipulate, because we're not doing victim blaming. These people are masters at what they do. The psychological impact behind the scenes with it is massive. So it's not the fact that you've fallen for the scam or you've been tricked into a scam. They've manipulated you into that situation. So we'll go through the more common frauds for adults. So romance fraud. Romance fraud is massive. It doesn't matter if you're a day old or 100 years old. We all have that inherent belief in us. We want to be loved. We just want, if it's companionship or if it's a romantic relationship, we want that love with us. So people have a lot of the way that romance works now is a lot of it is done online. People start building relationships, and we find that now is a point that relationships start to build. It will go on and it'll come and it'll get bigger and bigger from over Christmas, because people think, I don't want to be spending Christmas on my own, and up until Valentine's Day. So these cons don't happen just over one phone call, one day. They happen over weeks, they happen over months, and they happen over years. We have people that are years into being manipulated by these con artists, scammers, fraudsters, whatever you want to call them. So usually it starts with just one simple contact, whether they are on a dating profile, they're on any sort of social media, and they'll have that message that comes through. So they have this relationship that starts to build. A lot of the time, this person is in a different country, and then at some point during that relationship, they will ask for cash. They will ask for a bank transfer. I can't get home because all my bank details have been stolen. I can't pay a ticket. My child is ill. I need to take my child to the doctor before I can get to you, before I can come and visit you, before I can move to your country. Even if some of the times with this as well, we find that it's people that are in the same country, and they might even visit these people. So it is a really difficult one to find, and it's not going to be Will or myself that deals with the people when the curtain falls, that deals with these people first. It's going to be the likes of yourselves. So what we say is there's absolutely no embarrassment at all with romance fraud, with any of the frauds, but particularly romance fraud, because like I said, it isn't just a quick con, it's a long con with this, months, years. A couple of examples. we have a gentleman who is on his third bank because he still wants to send money to the lady that he's in a relationship with, and his last two banking protocols have kicked in, and they've said this is a scam, we're not letting you send any of your money. So the third bank they're on now, and potentially at this point if he's onto the fourth bank, he's £290,000 in to this. It's life-changing. He's remortgaged his house. We've got another gentleman who he knows that this has been going on again for years with him. He knows this is a scam. He sends £50 a week. Knows now, and he genuinely believes it. Yes, it is a scam. This person is not who they say they are, but he's willing to give that £50 a week because he has regular contact from this person. And isn't it really sad that he's got nobody else in his life that he's willing to give £50 a week to somebody that's going to talk to him? We have a lady who is in a platonic relationship with Keanu Reeves. So she had contact over social media with Keanu Reeves, and he asked her to transfer him £10,000 to his bank because John Wick 4, the money for John Wick 4 hadn't come, and he wanted to give money to children with cancer. So they use these pulls. They know how to manipulate the situation. The lady was only stopped by the bank because they were asking her and sort of stated to her that Keanu Reeves doesn't need that money at that time. We've it's really easy for us to say this is what you need to do, but what you do need to do is if somebody comes to you and speaks to you about romance fraud and says, I'm not really sure, is to get in touch with us as soon as we can. We need to put safeguarding in place for them. So yeah, it's not a nice fraud that goes on. None of the frauds are nice, but these ones are it takes over a long period of time. There's a lady called Becky Holmes who has written a book that's called Keanu Reeves is Not in Love with You, because he's one of the most repeated personalities for romance fraud, because he comes across as a genuinely nice guy. She's also on X or Twitter, and you can follow her. It handles Death to Spinach, and she scams the scam artists back. So she does on with them and says, "Oh, I'm coming to get you. I'm coming over to see you," and stuff. So yes, romance fraud. It generally is not a nice fraud, but we're going to move on to another topic.
Courier fraud. That's a good picture, that is. It shows an officer against an anonymous person. Okay, because usually what happens is 99%, well, quite a lot of these cases, is that the perpetrators, the criminals, what they'll do is they'll pretend to be the police. So what they'll do is they'll phone up the victim, and they'll tell them there's been some sort of usual activity on their account, whether that be a credit card or a bank account, and sort of similar. The MOs are very similar for this. The method to do this is very similar. And what they'll do is they try to elicit. Becky's already mentioned the psychological sort of thing they use, and they are very good at manipulation. They'll use words not to the victim like "don't panic," stuff like that, to try and reassure the victim, but at the same time causing a panic sort of reaction from the victim, so the victim doesn't take time to think. And these are quite elaborate. They'll say to the victim, "We're for the police. We've been notified by your bank. There's some sort of thing going on with your bank account. We need you to help us, but don't panic. We're going to hand you out to a local officer, and he'll explain it to you." And they hand her to somebody else. I mean, I've dealt with victims of this sort of crime before, and they'll hand it over to another person. And what will happen is they'll talk the victim through. We need you to go to the bank. We need you to withdraw some money because the cashier that's in the counter, they're involved in this scam. But what we want you to do is leave your mobile phone on, okay? And we'll be with you all the way. We'll make sure nothing happens to you. And one of the ladies I dealt with, she did this. She took £6,000 at the bank and she took it home. And they even gave her an excuse, because the banks asked questions. Well, why do you want this cash for? And they told her to tell the banks it was for builders. Okay, so what happened was she went home. Somebody turned up to her door wearing police uniform and took the money from her. And she said to me that as soon as that person walked away, she realised she'd been scammed. Okay, now West Mercia has got a special operation on this. Every other fraud that we deal with usually would go through a action fraud first, but this particular type of fraud comes through to us because in this instance they actually went to London and we actually caught the scammers in London this time. And I believe they are still on remand at the moment because they were wanted by other forces as well. The thing that you need to get message out there is that, one, the police will never ask anybody to get money out of the bank, ever. We'll never do it. If we want access to people's bank records, we'll get them to fill out a form, or if necessary, we'll go to the courts and apply for a court order to get the access to somebody's bank account. The bank will never ask you to take money out. You know, we'll never ask for the PIN. The bank will never ask for the PIN. We don't need it. There's no reason why a police officer or somebody for the bank would want your PIN number or you withdraw cash for the bank. So that's sort of like the prime message we try to get out to everybody out there. And we'll never phone up just on spec, you know. And it's always good that if they get phone calls like this, you ask them to put the phone down and potentially use another phone, whether that be a mobile or a landline, and phone 101 and say, has somebody contacted me from the police? You know, just to reassure themselves. And it's the same as somebody's at the front door. Somebody comes to the front door, we always tell them to ring 999, you know, because an officer is not going to be bothered that somebody's verifying the fact that they're an officer. Yeah, so that's what I would say about courier fraud, that victims of this are manipulated by the criminals into believing they need to do an action, and they keep that sort of momentum up until the victim does what they want to do. And usually if the victim gets a chance to think about it for a few seconds or a few minutes, that they realise that this is not right. But the whole language that they use, we've been to national fraud conferences where psychologists have gave us presentations on the language style that's used by these people. These guys have learnt their art very well, and they train each other. You believe it or not, they actually train each other. Okay.
So HMRC fraud is quite prevalent at the moment. You either get the text messages or there'll be a voice activated. It's not a robot you're speaking. Excuse me. It's not a robot you're speaking to, but it's just an automated system that will say there is a warrant out for your arrest, and you need to press a number to then go through to sort out this warrant because you haven't paid the taxes. A lot of people in vulnerable situations will hear this, and there's that panic, there's that immediacy. You need to do this now. You need to click on this link now to tell us who you are, to verify that this warrant isn't for you, or you need to pay us this money so that this warrant isn't executed. The police don't come to your door. You're not arrested. Only in the last week, there's been about 5 or 6 that have been reported with HMRC on here, saying, and they've lost thousands of pounds because they thought there was the panic that somebody was going to come and arrest them. So is that immediacy with it? And again, we need to get the message out that the HMRC don't send text messages. They don't send these automated phone calls to say that you're going to be arrested. It's not their practice. So the more people that know about this, the less likely people are going to be manipulated into that situation because they think this is my one chance to not get arrested. So we need to get that message through to them.
Investment fraud, this is another one that's kind of prevalent. We all want to be rich, we all want to give up working, and it's just a natural thing amongst humanity that we want to do as little as possible for as much return as possible. No, the thing about this is this can be quite devastating to the victim, this particular one, and the fact that financially devastating to the victim as well as emotionally, is what usually occurs is they get told, oh, invest in cryptocurrency is a big one, because everybody's heard about Bitcoin and get rich quick sort of schemes. And the one of the things they'll do is they'll trick the person into trusting them. That's the first thing they have to do. They establish a trust, and what they'll do then is they'll usually they'll get them to invest in a cryptocurrency, and they'll get a return quite quickly back on that, and quite a good return, usually about 50 to 100% on their investment. But that's for small amounts. They'll start off on anything between £10 to 100, and over a period of time they'll work up to a stage where the person's maybe putting a couple of hundred in and getting a couple of hundred back on top of their investment. And once the trust's been built and they've showed these people they can access their funds at any time, what the criminals will do then is they will say to them, right, we've got this one-time sort of fraud investment, this investment for you. However, there's a limit to how much you can put on here. Minimum sort of limit you can put on here, and they'll ask for something like £10,000 minimum. So what happens is the victim goes, well, say to themselves, oh, I've put all this money in so far, and I've got a good return on it. Oh, maybe I'll put £10,000 in. Hey, I might get £10,000 back, or something along the lines. Anyway, what happens is they put the money in, and I've seen cases where they've convinced other family members to get involved in this, and the whole family's put tens of thousands of pounds into this investment, and the money goes into the account, they go in, they check it, it's there, yeah, and then we can go back a few days later and it's still there. And then one day they go in to check it, because maybe not heard for these fraudsters for a while, these criminals, and they're going in and check it, and lo and behold, the money's gone and it's been transferred out. And if it's cryptocurrency, which it usually is, a lot of these cases, what happens is basically, from the victim's point of view, it becomes untraceable. Now, that's not to say that it is untraceable, but it's very complicated to trace somebody down that's transferred money through cryptocurrency. We can do it. We've got special capabilities within our unit today. We've got a couple of guys here that are, one is the national lead on cryptocurrency investigations, and yeah, we can do it, but there's only a certain point. The biggest difficulty with cryptocurrency is identifying who owns the wallet. We can see which wallet it's went to. If you understand anything about cryptocurrency, that when they transfer money or Bitcoin, whatever it might be, it goes to a wallet, and that's sort of like a destination. Now, the anonymity bit comes in because nobody has to register their name and address like you do with a bank account to that wallet. We can see where it's went, but we don't necessarily know who owns that wallet. Hope that makes sense. It's kind of like a whistle-stop tour of cryptocurrency. Anyway, this is what they do. And they do similar with stocks and shares and investments and other things. They even get celebrities in some cases. There was a couple of celebrities that were caught up in this mess in America that were endorsing and investing in certain types of cryptocurrency. And yeah, our advice to everybody is never invest anything you can't afford to lose, okay? Because just like any investment, it can go up or down. But this particular fraud, this can devastate lives. They'll get people invest in their pension pots and stuff like that, and they're thinking they can retire early and stuff like that. And actually, what happens is the money just disappears. And if it disappears via cryptocurrency, there's very little chance that the victim will get anything back. Very little. Because as soon as you put it in a crypto account or a cryptocurrency account, the banks kind of wash their hands. The banking protocols don't apply then. Okay.
WhatsApp have a big scam that's going on at the moment, which a lot of people have had it. It'll say, hi, mum or dad, or hi, mum, hi, dad. I've lost my phone, or I've broken my phone. Can you say this is my new number? That'll be the first message, and there'll be nothing else from it. And then once you save that number, the next message will come through saying, and people will reply to it, and they say, yeah, no, not a problem. And sometimes people will reply and say, is this so-and-so? And the reply will be, yes, it is me. And then a couple of messages down, they will say, because I've lost my phone, I've also lost my ability to my banking, or everything's been stolen. I've had my bag stolen, my phone's gone, my bank cards have gone as well. Could you transfer me some money if I give you the bank details? So this happens only over a very short period of time, but people are transferring large amounts of money from their accounts, believing that this is a loved one that the money has gone from, and expecting it to be returned within a couple of days. And it's only when they then later speak to the person that it's meant to be that they're finding out that this scam has gone on. So what we're saying to people is just verify if you get a message like this saying this is my new number, text the old number or phone the old number and make sure that that number isn't working anymore. And when we're replying to unknown numbers, don't give out information, or just simply ask, who is this, rather than is this so and so, so that you aren't giving these people even more information. Now, from now until Christmas as well, we'll get text message ones which will say that they're from DPD, Royal Mail, Yodel, all the different delivery service providers, and saying, we've missed you today. And because it's coming up to Christmas and lots of people buy things online, we missed you. To send your parcel out to you, we need you to click on this link, confirm the address, and send us £1.62 or some other random amount. So when you click on that link, you're either giving them your personal information, so home address, or you're giving them banking information to be able to pay that re-delivery charge. So DPD won't do that. All of the delivery services don't request money from it. They will either say that there'll be a text message come through saying, we've missed a day, it'll be redelivered tomorrow, or we've missed a day, this is where it's been delivered, or you need to phone and get it sorted, or they'll leave a card for you if they're going to get you to phone it. So it's knowing that these messages, if you're clicking on links, there shouldn't be links attached to any of these messages.
Position of trust. Well, the fraud by position of trust covered under Section 4 of the Fraud Act. I won't bore you with the sort of word the law is. But position of trust is, it can apply to a wide range of sort of situations, whether it be an accountant, a solicitor, and a financial advisor, or a member of the family, okay, that is adopted a position of trust, i.e. somebody that rather's got care an elderly parent. I mean, I've seen cases where other family members have said another family member spending all their parents' inheritance because they're looking after the parent and that parent's got some sort of mental ailment, whether that be dementia and such like. Now, it is quite an emotive crime when it involves that sort of situation. I mean, that's probably, in your case, something that's going to happen you might come across. Now, if people have got concerns about somebody in a position of trust, and they believe that they're abusing the person that's given them their trust, and that person hasn't got the capacity to realise what's going on, you please inform the police, and we'll look into it. You know, it can be very difficult if the person that's a victim of this doesn't realise they're a victim. That's when the difficulty arises. Especially if that person is a family member and they believe that family member's got their best interests in heart. And I mean, even somebody can have power of attorney and still be abusing that trust. And it's a mess mainly, but you need to bring it to our attention and we'll try and sort it out. But position of trust frauds can be perpetrated not just by strangers, that's the point. It can be family members that commit this, because I've actually seen this where a daughter, a lady that was suffering from dementia, had basically been emptying her bank accounts, for her own personal use. She hadn't been paying for mum's care or nothing like that, but because she had a power of attorney, she was allowed to do this, and people can still complain, even yourselves, if you're in a situation where you see another, like one of your clients or whatever, has got a family member that it seems to be taking advantage of them, you can report this to the police yourself, and we will look into it.
Calls from companies can come in so many different ways. You can have calls from a company that you know, that you trust, or there will be a lot of there can be a lot of different companies that will get in touch with you. We're finding now that a lot of the scams can happen. It's like a middleman. So there'll be your company that you're phoning from. So company you deal with, for example, say Sky, and you have a Sky subscription, you get a phone call from Sky and they're asking you for a lot of information from yourselves. What can happen is, even if it's a fake one, they can get a lot of information very quickly from you. So I find this week when I phoned Sky and they were asking for one-time passcodes, which goes against everything that me and Will speak about. So if we're using one-time passcodes, don't give that information out there and then, unless you're doing it as a online, unless you're using it at that point, you're expecting that number to come through. If you're on a phone call with somebody, one-time passcodes shouldn't be given out, but Sky have asked me this week for one. So we get a lot of phone calls, a lot of people that come through. There's a lot of spam calls that come through trying to get them to sign up for different things, as well as the door-to-door ones. We get you can get the solar panels, windows. A lot of them come through just on phone calls on landlines. And if you're particularly vulnerable to one of these phone calls and giving out information, there's something that we can put in place called call blockers. So if you're dealing with somebody who has a lot of spam calls coming through, get in touch with us. It's very little more work from yourselves. It is just a form to fill in. So it's phone call to us. We can fill the majority of the form for you, and then it goes off and it gets reviewed to see if they are eligible for it. But what it does then is it filters through just the approved numbers, which you can set a pre-approved list, and none of the other calls will come through. They also will register, once it's registered as a spam call, it'll block it from all the other call blockers as well. So nationally, it's free if you do it through us as well. There is after 12 months, you might get a call from the call blocker people, which you don't particularly need to extend the warranty with them. There's a little bit going on behind the scenes from that. But yeah, if you get somebody that's getting a lot of spam calls coming through, or having aggressive calls coming through, get in touch with us and we can put a little form through and get a call blocker installed for them.
Social media hacks. That's quite a broad subject. This. The hacks vary from them taking over your accounts, where the bad actors will come in and they'll guess your password because your password's not strong enough, or they'll trick you into getting your password, they can get in sort of that way. The other thing that they can do is, what they'll do is they'll pretend to be somebody else. They'll hack you and your friends' accounts. This is a big one. And you'll get a message saying, hiya, Ken, whatever. It's whoever's here. And I'm in a bit of trouble at the moment, Oh, can you? Oh, what's wrong? Oh, well, I find myself financially embarrassed, whatever, And what they'll do is they'll ask you for money, okay? And they will ask you to send the money, and you'll send it dutifully, think, on a promise you'll get paid back, and you know this person, so you believe you will get paid back, but you never do get paid back because that person's account's been hacked. Advice is, if somebody asks you for money online via Facebook, whatever, any of the social medias, you've got Snapchat, you've got Twitter there, or X as it's now known as, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, as I'm talking about, is use another method to contact that person. If you've got a mobile number for them, then speak to them on mobile. Try not to use another electronic method of contacting them, because there's a good chance that their other sort of accounts have been compromised as well too. And there's nothing beats face-to-face or a quick phone call and you can hear their voice. Though recently we've give slightly different advice regarding AI, but I'm not going into that at the moment. But yeah, speak to the person at the other end if they're asking for money. Okay, get these accounts back if you're a victim. It varies, because sometimes what the hackers will do, or the bad actors will do, is they'll change the recovery email address, and they'll do it twice. So you go into Facebook or that and say, oh, can you restore my account, and use the previous installed email address, and suddenly you find that you haven't got control back because it's the hackers have changed it. Some cases you've just got to resign yourself that you've lost that account. Okay, there is cases and instances where people have been wrongly accused of distributing IIOC, but there is ways and means we can look at the account to see where it's been logged in from. Facebook will give us some information, but they give us an awful lot. Okay, so please, if somebody asks you for money online, try another method of verifying that that's that actual person that's asking you for money.
This leads us on nicely to online fraud. So the marketplace and online fraud is coming up, and it's coming up quickly, especially this time of year where people are looking for a bargain online. So if it seems too good to be true, it usually is. There's a reason why that is listed on there. So having a look at the profile, and it has that, even if you're a buyer or a seller, it's still worth saying. So that profile, has it just started today? Has it got any reviews? Are they selling something that is designer for a very small price? There's a lot of designer goods are being sold, and when they turn up, they are not designer goods. There's also a following on from social media hacks or account hacks. They're then using that account, they take over the account, they use that account then to sell items fraudulently. There's one we had quite recently where account was taken over, and then that account was used to sell Taylor Swift tickets. The tickets didn't exist, but because they were so popular at that point in time, people were immediately buying these items, and then finding out that they didn't exist, and the account that they were going back to was a fraudulent account. So it was a genuine account, but somebody had taken it over, and the person who the account belonged to could see all of this happening and just could do nothing about it. So it's really looking at the, if you get sent a link and it goes through to a website, can you go to that website? Or even if it's a link on social media and it says about the website name, don't click on that link. Go onto a trusted browser and put in the company that you're looking for, so that you go through a trusted website as well. So when you click on the links behind the scenes, they can take all of your data as well. So it's just knowing that, especially this time of year, if you're going to go and buy something, make sure it's genuine. Look at the reviews on the account holder. If you're selling big items online and people are coming to your house, make sure you've got somebody else with you. We had a spate of caravans being sold. So the springtime this year, caravans were being sold. People were turning up at the address saying, yes, I want to buy that. Yeah, all good. Right, we'll do a bank transfer. So you're waiting around, and bank transfer, there's no good way of selling a big item online. It's really difficult whichever way you go for it. But they were doing it as bank transfer. So they say, yeah, that's no problem. All the money was exchanged. They were waiting for the money to land in the account. The buyers were going, well, it's gone from my account. Here, I can prove it's gone from my account. And they had an app that they opened, looked like their bank, and it says it's gone. So on trust, rather than getting another way to verify it, on trust, the item was being let go, the caravans were being driven off the drive, never to be seen again, and that money never arrived in their account. So it's using, especially with bank transfers as well, even if the money has gone, if somebody's using a hacked account, if you're doing direct bank to bank, the money can be taken back as well from the bank. If the person whose account it is says this was done fraudulently, the money will be taken back from the bank. So the best way you can do it is to use a third party. So if you've got either PayPal, if you're using a credit card, you get extra protection with you using your credit card when you're banking online. Things like Google Play and Apple Pay, they work as a third party, so the person that's making that purchase doesn't see your bank details. If you pay directly with a direct debit for any online purchase, and that person you go through to a fraudulent account, they can clear your account very, very quickly. So it's adding an extra step in there, and using not third party, but using a different way of paying rather than directly with your direct debit. So how does fraud impact on victims? There are many ways it does impact. So as you can see here, we've got the financial impact of it, the emotional impact, because people are embarrassed that this has happened to them. The reputation, sometimes you get business accounts that are taken over, and then they go on to, the hacked accounts then go on to sell items, and it destroys a business. And as well, we've got secondary attack. If you've been susceptible to manipulated into a first fraud, you're at a higher a higher percentage of going through to being part of a second fraud within 3 months. So it's like having a telephone call, and you answer that call. They know it's an open line. They know it's a good line, and they keep using it. It works the same with a fraud as well. If they know that you've been manipulated that once, you're more likely to be manipulated the second time. And mental health as well. We put in a lot of safeguarding with the people that we deal with, because we know that the impact on this, people just go, oh, it's just online. It's an online scam. It's nothing. What's the problem? The cyber and fraud acts have such an impact on people. We've had people that have had their lives destroyed. One gentleman was found in the back of his car with a hose pipe in his car, he was actively trying to hit himself. So it really is important that we look after these people. The one thing that we can put into place as well is, if you're dealing with somebody who you look at it and you're going, this looks like they're giving money or something's not right here. So banking protocols kick in around the £500,000 mark. When you go in and you try and send that amount of money, you'll be asked questions, which is the main reason why the courier frauds, they keep you with the open line in their pocket, so they can hear if the questions are being asked and you're not giving the answers that they expect you to give. Say they've said to you to say that it's for a kitchen, but then you start to go, well, I've had a phone call and I'm helping the police or I'm helping the banks. They'll immediately hang up and they'll know not to attend your address to get the money. So banking protocols kick in that way. But there's a thing that we can do with the police. It's called reverse banking protocols. And it works in the way that we as a police will let the bank know that we think that this person is susceptible to a fraud. So there's something going on, but we're not. You can do it as a family member, but because we're not, as a police, we're not family members, we can just notify the bank to say, look at this person, they've got a little bit more of vulnerability, so we just need to protect them a little bit more, and the banks will then help them and assist them better.
This is a link to a Padlet session, Padlets that we've got, pretty much like yourself, Cam. And on there, we've collated a lot of information about how to protect yourself from these sort of frauds and stuff like that. So if you can scan that in, feel free to pass on to others, just so they're aware that, because the more we get this message out there, the better, the more people can protect themselves. Passwords. Well, everybody hates passwords. We all hate passwords. Having to change them all the time. Yeah, it's really annoying. You know, but it's really important. Can't emphasise this enough. There's an organisation called the National Cyber Security Centre, and it's a branch of GCHQ that's got a public face, basically, and they advise businesses, individuals, organisations, charities, all sorts, even other departments of the government, on protecting themselves from cyber attacks and how to prevent it. I mean, let you understand, no system is 100% guaranteed to work. What you can do is, it's just like a burglar alarm. It makes it a bit more difficult for them. And if it's too difficult, they'll move on to the next one, sadly. But that's the way it works. Now, passwords, as you can see there, that slide's got a bit of demonstration for one of the passwords to use. If folk could use it, they change password into 5s, the S's into 5s, and they put the O. Please don't do that. If you've got anything that's even remotely like that, change it immediately, okay? The recommendation is that you use 3 random words, okay? And that's the very minimum sort of specification the NCSC recommend. We also say if you can change some of these words to characters, like there, we've got a 0, and they've got a 5 for the S and a 0 for the O, and you can use all sorts. For the S, you can even use a $sign if you really want to make it even more complicated, okay? Please don't use the same password for your different accounts, because all they need to do then is guess the one password, and they've got whatever account. If they find it, they've got if they, especially if you get your email, they'll link that to your other accounts. Again, yeah, please don't do that. So use 3 random words, use special characters if you can, okay, and do not use any identifiable information. So things like your kid's date of birth, your partner's date of birth, stuff like that, a combination of all 3, your own, your partner's, and whatever else, initials. Because these people, if they're after you, that's one of the first things they'll do. They'll do a bit of what's called a recon on you, a bit of reconnaissance. So if they're after you in particular, for whatever reason it might be, they will look at your social media accounts where you go in public. They will look at your dog's name, your pet, other pets, whatever, and they will try and use this for a brute force dictionary attack, they call that, okay? And they will try and guess your password. And if they get into your accounts, well, I've already mentioned what can happen with social media, they will use your accounts for their criminal needs. And the trouble is, it comes back to you then, and other people think it's you it's perpetrating or asking for money. Perpetrating crimes or asking for money, but it's not. It's the bad actors. So please make sure you use complicated passwords, okay? And it would just save. I mean, the recommendation is that you use password managers as well. I'm a bit, because of recent breaches, is a couple of the big sort of providers of password managers. I'm sort of, I didn't use them. I was a victim myself. I mean, they got my passwords on LastPass that was breached last year. They managed to get into one of the engineers that work on the systems accounts and download the whole database. The only sort of solace I could take for that was that the whole database was encrypted and they've not decrypted that database yet. But that's a matter of time. As technology advances, the methods that they use can change. So it might be a matter of time. So I went through all my passwords, all of them, and I had to change a lot. I use the browser a lot for the common ones, because the browser will only offer you the password if it recognises the website certificate. So if you go to a fake website or a fraudulent website, the browser will not offer you the option to. It will not offer you the password for that site. And that's kind of like a wee hint to say this might not be a genuine site that you're on, because one of the things they'll send you, I think Becca probably talk about spear phishing and that in a wee bit, but one of the things they'll do is they'll send you a phishing email and ask you to go with a link on it and click on it. You go to a fake site, looks like your bank, looks exactly like your bank, but hey, your browser suddenly not offering you the password or the username for that account. That's sort of like a hint to say this might not be your bank. That's when you start looking at the URL, the wee padlock sign at the top left-hand corner with on your browser. If that's not there, then I would say that's probably a fraudulent website. Okay, so please change your passwords.
What we say is that your email account is, if you look at your email account, like your online home, and your password for your email account, like your house keys. So if you lose that, you're really in trouble, because if somebody gets into your account, they will set up the secondary email account to something that's theirs. They'll set up the associated telephone number to something that's theirs, because you haven't done that. And they'll set up two-factor as well, which we'll go through in a second. It's just something that's theirs, because again, you haven't done that and they've got in. From that point onwards, they don't need to know any of your other accounts, password for anything. You could have them either as all the same one, or you could have millions of different passwords, but they just go on to whichever account they're looking for, whether it's your social media, your online banking, your shopping, online shopping accounts, and they go on there, they put in their email address, and they simply press, I've forgotten my password, because it comes back to your email account. Everything comes back to your email account. So we are so well tuned now. So when you go into a shop and you go up to the till and they'll say, what's your email account? And you'll give this information out. If they turned around to you and said, what's your home address? You'd be like, well, why would you want to know that information? But we give out our email details so often. And the more people that know about our email account, the more susceptible we are to data breaches. There's a website that you can go on to called Have I Been Pwned, which is PWNED, rather than, it's like owned, but with a P started in the gaming world. So PWNED, Have I Been Pwned, all one word, all lowercase. And in there, you can put in your telephone number and you can put in your email account, and it will tell you if you've been part of any data breaches. So if you have, we can't get that information back, because once it's out there, but we just need to know to protect ourselves a little bit more. So if your password and your email account is gone and that password you still use, you need to change that. If you use that password on any of your other accounts, you need to change that. So we really need to look after ourselves and after our email accounts is the most important thing. So like I said, two-step verification, two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication. There's lots of different ways that this has been put out there, but at the moment it's called two-step verification. The only reason that it changes that we can work out is that somebody gets a promotion somewhere along the line, and then they move and they go, and then somebody else comes in and they change it again. There are a lot of the apps that you see, you'll look for 2FA, two-factor authentication. So this started in the banking world. You used to have to go back and you'd put in a code on a little pad that you'd have, or you'd have to have a phone call and it would send you a pass. There'd be something that is an extra layer of security onto your accounts. So like I said, it started in the banking world, it's now on everything. So any online messaging service you have, any social media you have, any online shopping apps that you have, any apps that you've got on your phone, there's going to be in the privacy settings the ability to turn on two-factor authentication. And we say turn it on everything that you've got, turn it on. And yes, it might be a little bit awkward. You go, oh, I've got to do that again. And it'll send you a text message, or it'll get you to log into an authenticator app. Do it, because if you've got that information, it's harder for the hackers to get into your account. Not impossible, but it's harder for them to do it. It's like biometrics as well, and we'll get Will to talk to you about biometrics really quickly.
Biometrics is a good way of sort of authenticating it. Google offer it, and Apple do as well. So one of them's face recognition. Now you might think that's just a picture. It's not actually. The device scans your face and it uses all sorts of clever infrared stuff, and it actually gets the shape of your face. And it recognises if your eyes are open, because if you close your eyes, your phone will open. So that's to stop people coming up in your sleep and opening your phone when you're asleep. You know, stuff like that. And why you can wear glasses when it does it as well too. Yeah. So I would recommend biometrics. The fingerprint is another one. Google's quite good at the fingerprint recognition now. And I mean, it's harder for somebody to steal your fingerprint. It's harder for them to steal your face. You know, again, no system's infallible, but as Becky is saying, if you've got another layer of security there, and security should always be in layers, that's always a recommendation for security. It shouldn't just be will rely on one layer of security. You should have layers of security in place. So if you've got something less and you're using your biometrics to manage your accounts, it then makes it a lot harder for them to get in. So please, if you can enable that, enable it.
The only one we don't recommend is your voice. And that's because AI has come on so much now that they can replicate people's voices. So I know that Santander if you do telephone banking with Santander, they get you to repeat a phrase so that they can verify that it's you. They're looking to move away from that because AI is, like I said, it is as such now that it will replicate directly to you. People have had phone calls coming in. There was a high profile case where a gentleman, his wife and child went off for the day like they normally did. He then had a phone call from his wife saying that she's been kidnapped along with her child. As far as he was concerned, he was talking to his wife. And only later in the day, we got in touch with the police. It was all going through. It was a crime in action, so there was negotiators in place. There was everything that was going on, and he was looking to get the money out of his account. It was only later in the day that his wife phoned from work and said, "Why is our landline being tied up all day? I've been trying to get in touch with you." She was safe. She was at work. She knew nothing about this. The child was safe. The child was in nursery. Knew nothing about this. It was all from a phone call that was going on that they were able to replicate her voice because she was a well-known person. That there was a lot of her voice was out there, and they were able to do it.
Wow, everybody hates this. Update devices. It's always at the most awkward time. It's always when you've just switched on the machine. It's it's you're doing something online and suddenly this wee icon or notification flashes up in the bottom of the screen or it pops up on your phone. Please update your devices as soon as you can. It might not be practical to do it immediately, but the reason these firms and vendors release these updates is simply because they've found or have been notified of a security breach within them. So this allows the hackers a route into your machine, and it's not just individuals this happens to. It happens to organisations. I mean, they then update their devices, and we're talking about big things here like routers and switches. If they then update them, then they can get in there and install all sorts of nefarious software that then allows them to take control. And if they can go on your machine, they will take control of your machine. They will harvest all the information that they can, whether that machine's a phone or a computer. They will take as much as they can. So if anything you got stored on there and they manage to get in because you haven't updated, they'll take it. Okay, and the first time you'll be aware of it is when you get odd messages from friends saying, "Why are you posting that on social media? Why are you doing this?" Or worst case scenario, your bank account starts dwindling. Okay. Sometimes the vendors won't even tell you why they're updating them. Some vendors will claim that they're super secure, and they're not really. There's one vendor in particular that's released a lot of updates in the last few months. They've released these updates because security flaws have been found, and what they've done is they've curated whole labs now. There's one in Paris, one vendor's got, and all they do, these people in these labs, is they specialise in hacking their own equipment to try and find these. So please, when it says update device, update it. I know it's a pain. I hate it as well, just as much as anybody.
If you are working with anybody really, if you get them to check that there isn't any updates, because it's really simple to go, "Oh, I'm not doing that now," and press either snooze or forget it for now, and then not go back into it. So it's going into the general settings on your security, on your settings, and then you'll see, and then there'll be the updates there that you can look for. Sometimes they come through, and if you haven't got the automatic like push through updates, there'll be a few sitting there. Like I said, you're more susceptible if you haven't done those updates. The other thing to mention with this as well is making sure that people don't download remote access tools. So there's a lot of them that go through. People will get them to download these items saying, "I'm going to help you fix your computer," or we're going to work through this together, and they will. So they download an item, remote access tool, which they call RATs. And it just sits there, and they can see every keystroke that the person's doing, or they can take over control, and you can see them going into accounts and there's nothing you can do about it. If they then block your access to it, there's nothing that you can do about it. So missing link, you've done everything that we've said, and you've changed all your passwords, and you've got all your two-factor on, and you're going, I'm just the best now because I've got everything secure and nobody's getting me. And then you get a phone call from your bank. Your bank goes, all right, well, I'll tell you what, I'll tell you some of your information. So because you don't believe that it's them, I'll tell you your name, tell you your home address, and I'll tell you your postcode, and I'll tell you your telephone number, and I'll tell you your sort code, and I'll tell you your account number. And yet at this point, you start to go, well, maybe this is the bank. And they're giving you all the information that they've got, everything that they know about you, they've given to you. And then you suddenly think, well, maybe this is the bank. Okay, what do you want to talk to me about? And the bank goes, well, turns it back to you and says, well, how do I know that you are you? And they say, what we'll do is we'll send you a code through. And sure enough, in your messages a couple of seconds later, a code comes through, and it's from your bank. It's there. It's the one that normally comes through. It's the same number that's used in lots of times before. And you go, well, yeah, then so it must be the bank, because they've sent this is the sort of stuff they sent me before. This is the right number they used before. It's come through. So yeah, I've got that. And they'll say, why? Say, can you read that code out to me, please? And you read it out. And then the phone goes dead. And what you've actually done is you've just authorized an account, just authorized a payment from your account. And because you've authorized it, you've done it through that one-time passcode that's come through to your phone, and you've given them that information. It's really hard to get your money back from the bank. So what they do is, because you've got everything set up properly, your system is working fine, everything is there as it should be, they can't hack the system. They have to hack you. So they've manipulated you into giving that information up. So yeah, a lot of it now is not hacking the system, it's hacking the human. So we say, if in doubt, report it. So the two action fraud numbers there, you can either go through to the action fraud website, or you can phone that number and report it there, directly there. That's the ones if you have actually been manipulated and you've given either personal data or financial data out to somebody. And the ones in the middle are our intelligence. So if you spot something and it's not got you, it's just you've spotted it, if it's a text message, forward it to 7726, which is spam in our money. If you look at your phone, it spells out spam. If you get an email, report it to report@phishing.gov.uk. So if you're sitting there at home watching the telly and you go through your emails and there's loads of them, just forward them all on. And the top one there, if you go to the ncsc.gov.uk, you can report fraudulent websites. What they can do is really quickly, they can take out the websites, they can take down the email addresses, and they can take down the telephone numbers and stop them being able to get through to anybody else. And that's us. So if you've got any questions, I don't know if there is anything in the chat, but if you've got any questions, if you let us know, and we'll see if we can help you.
So just before we go to questions, I'm going to stop the recording, but I just wanted to say, on behalf of Partners in Care, thank you both very much for that. And I like your kind of description of your emails and passwords as the same as looking after your house keys. I think that really does kind of highlight how important it is. So thank you, Will, and thank you, Rebecca.